Yep, all good.
I'd like to call to order the City of Saugatuck Workshop Meeting for March 18th, 2026. Jamie, will you call the roll?
Anderson,
Here.
Clark,
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Gardner,
Here.
Muncy, Peterson.
Here.
Stanton.
Here. Gregory is unable to make the meeting. Will someone make a motion to excuse his absence?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes, any opposed? And Lauren needs to leave at 5, so just a heads up on that. Any agenda changes? All right. Jill, welcome as our guest speaker. It's great to have you back.
It's good to be here. So this is kind of a wrap-up presentation. I have been at the county for over 4 years as of February. And we are going to be, my role is going to be ending at the end of this month. I'm not really advertising it, but I am, have talked to 123Net, and I am going to be taking the role of Director of Community Engagement for 123Net and basically doing kind of what I did in Allegan County for their other counties as they're doing their BEAD work. So I'll still be available to everybody. And even if it's another carrier problem, if I know how to point you in the right direction, I've got a list of all of the carriers, all the providers, and what their resident contact numbers are and what their websites are, and who you can contact if you have a problem with them. They didn't all give me names, but most of them did. So I'll be able to give you some resources because the county's not going to backfill my position, and they have no plans to provide any of the assistance that I have been providing, because that was kind of just a bonus while I managed the construction project. So if you want to go to the next slide. So this is kind of small print, but this is the objectives that we had for this project. And as you can see, to hire a project lead was one of the objectives, and that's why my role was created. And that's just a summary of kind of what we started at the beginning of the project. And at the time, we didn't know what we were going to do or how we were going to do it or how much we could accomplish. And I think I know we blew my expectations out of the water because I didn't think we would be able to get this much. I remember when I started thinking, I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll figure it out. Next slide. So for anybody that hasn't been around since the beginning, this is just it's not me. This is just a timeline of kind of what we went through. That's the beginning in 2022 of getting the RFP together and receiving the bids. And then next slide. And then this is receiving the bids, getting the contract, waiting for applying for the Robin grant, and then getting the Robin grant. And then after this timeline, we spent the next 2 years implementing the contract. So next slide. This is probably the most useful slide as far as, the overall picture. So we had 11,098 addresses that were funded with Robin. There were 700 addresses in Lee Township that the township kept. They were kind of going to do their own thing. And then they ended up just going to 123Net and having a public-private partnership with 123Net. So close to 12,000 addresses. I believe they told me at least 4,000 additional addresses do have access to 123Net because they were incidental passings that happened when they were trying to connect one unserved address with another unserved address. So there was some definitely crossing over other, mostly Charter, some Comcast in the town, in the county. The RDOF, we did get a lot accomplished. MEC has completed almost all of their 2,300. They are complete. They did not do all the addresses. There were 50 addresses in Otsego Township that became untenable and for them to do for various reasons. And they are only required to get their grant money to do 95%. And so those became part of the 5%. And I am still hoping to figure out a way, hopefully something will come about. But some of those people are Great Lakes Energy and they will eventually get it through Great Lakes. So MEC is done with what they're going to do. Mercury Broadband had a total of 1,260 addresses. 917 have been completed. There's like 343 that are not. It's very, very low density. I'll show you on the next map. And then Charter said they're going to complete theirs. They're going to be doing way more than 75. They got granted for 75. They're going to build beyond those 75, some of the areas around those. And so they said they would be done either Q2 or 3. And then Bloomingdale did get some reconnect grants to do Cheshire, Trowbridge Valley, and a little bit of Lee Township. And then the BEAD, so the update here is we were allocated 1.6 billion. We had enough money to bring pretty much everybody fiber. And then we didn't get it done in the 4 years. Well, we didn't get it done by the end of 2024. And so then what happened is that the Commerce Department decided that they wanted to restructure it, and they basically made it technology neutral. So fiber was not the preferred technology, which is a very short-sighted move, if I can criticize them. And they made all 50 states redo their grant proposals. And most of them had already done them, and a couple of them had awarded them. And they made them throw it all out and start over. So they basically opened the door up to Starlink and Kuiper, the Amazon satellite solution. And they were able to reduce the amount of money that they awarded to $924 million for Michigan instead of the $1.6 billion we had been given. I think they missed the memo on that this was a jobs program. And so, as well as an infrastructure program. But that's what the final proposal ended up being, $924 million, $547 million from grant matches from the providers. And that is, they're in the process of negotiating the contracts with those providers. If you want to go to the next page. So these are the 198,000 addresses that were BEAD eligible. As you can see, SpaceX got 11,400 and Kuiper got 13,238. So those are people who are basically not going to get anything they couldn't have already gotten. And it's not a long-term solution, and it's very disappointing. But 123Net was the second highest bidder in the state with 17,776. Thus, I have a job. And strategic management is a combination of Peninsula Fiber Networks, a company in Southern Illinois, and a company in Wisconsin that are all rural local phone providers that teamed up together, created this Shell Corporation Strategic Management, did a very effective job of bidding. The strategy was to bid small. And so they did, and they're getting the majority of it. I did talk to Eric Frederick about my skepticism. A lot of people were very skeptical, but he said that they seem to know what they're doing, and he's not worried. So, and then at the bottom, you can see that the majority of the addresses awarded in Allegan County are to 123Net. So we're going to get another 2,000 addresses connected with, some will get fiber, and then some will get SpaceX. And Frontier did get a few addresses, and that just helps them because, as you all know, they are actively building, not just in town, but out in the township. And so that'll just give them a little bit more capital to work with. Yeah.
Hi, Jill. It's good to see you. So
See you.
these addresses, those are specific locations in the county of Allegan that are eligible for the ARPA funds, correct? So,
Not ARPA, BEAD.
excuse me, thank you
Sure.
for B.
Well,
A lot of acronyms here.
Yeah.
So for Frontier, they're providing only, or actually they are running fiber optic in our communities, but this is particularly delivered to people that actually meet the specifications for the BEAD grant.
Yeah,
correct?
they don't have another option. And some of that was created because when Comcast gave us their shape files, they had a very wide boundary on 63rd Street. So there are people on east and west of 63rd Street, which Comcast did not go down any of the side streets. They just went down 63rd Street, but they put a wide boundary on their shapefile map. And so there were a bunch of people that basically fell through the crack. Now, they gave us the shapefile, but then after that, the reporting to the FCC was refined. They were forced to provide address level specific, whether they're serving people or not serving people. And so it did get cleaned up to the point that those addresses then became eligible to be funded through the BEAD grant. So that's where that comes from. Yeah. And strategic management did get a few. And then Surf Internet got a very few. Spectrum got a couple. Midwest Energy picked up a few. Great Lakes Energy, that's good for them because they're trying to self-fund all of the fiber to their customers. And then Frontier got a few. But 123Net has the most fiber network in the rural areas of Allegan County. And so they had the best opportunity to pick up those. And so that should, I don't think much construction will happen before the end of the year because of permitting. There's environmental permitting required because it's federal grant. Robin did not have that requirement because it was a state program that the feds gave us the money, but they let us administer it in the state of Michigan. And so they did not have all the environmental permitting that was required. And so they were able to just get to work and get it built. And so right now they're working on the permit process. And supposedly once they get the permit process designed, it's supposed to be very efficient. And but they're taking a good 6 months just to set it up. Then you got to apply, and then they're supposed to turn around the permits in 90 days. So we're not gonna have much year left by the time they get done doing that. But we will see, construction very soon, after the permits are, approved. So, any other questions about BEAD?
I have one.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the page you have about the BEAD grant, the 1.6 billion allocated to Michigan,
Yeah.
and it was supposed to be done by such and such a time. Why wasn't it able to be completed?
Well, it didn't have a deadline. So it was part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2022. It was the bipartisan infrastructure bill that people commonly refer to it as. And there was 42 point something billion. Yeah, 42 billion was allocated to basically close the broadband gap. And that happened in November. It was signed into law in November 2022. And then they spent a bunch of time, figuring out what that program should look like, basically putting all the meat into it. It was a skeleton, the legislation created a skeletal structure, but then they had to put the meat on it. And I went to all the meetings when they first started talking about it, and they were like, transparency is going to be great and all that. But they just really kind of were very methodical to the point of not being very productive. And so if we could have even just gotten it started before the change of administration, we'll call it, I think we would have been okay. But they were just being very methodical and trying to, and I mean, I can respect that spending $42 billion, you should at least be thoughtful about it. But I think there was a little too much thought and a little not enough action. So because we basically ended up, when the administration changed over, we weren't started, and that gave the administration a chance to meddle and put their own spin on it. And that's how we ended up without as much money and with satellite instead of fiber in some cases. But we did still get a lot of fiber because, if you look at 200,000 and it was like maybe 25,000 are getting satellite, honestly, it could have been worse.
You.
Could have been a lot worse. Yes.
Joe, you have a question?
I'm just curious what the BEAD grant covered. Was it just construction to get the
Mhm.
basically pass each residence?
Yeah, so it
stop Type of
covers,
thing, or
what?
just right up to the prem, or did you go?
No, it covers the building of the backbone and the access points.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so each provider had to figure out what their costs were, figure out how much they could throw into the mix. And, you know, fortunately, when Robin happened, the timing with ARPA was really good. And those of us who jumped in on the and on the Robin grant, we were able to use our ARPA money as part of the match for the Robin grant. So we put in our 18 million, 123 net, put in 18 million to match ours, and then we got 29 million from the Robin grant. And so that was nice. BEAD, there was a requirement for, I think, a 25% match, but if there was if it was a extremely high cost or, based on that, because you have to look at how much revenue opportunity is there and then what's the cost to build. And then you have to figure out how much you can afford as a company to invest in that revenue stream. And so that's how the BEAD grant worked. But the requirement to be eligible for BEAD is that you did not have 100 megabit download speed available. Now, there was a little bit of funny business on that, and we ducked and missed that whole thing. A lot of counties struggled with providers going out there and claiming they could provide 100 megabits on fixed wireless and trying to make addresses ineligible for fiber and stick people with fixed wireless. And I don't know, apparently these fixed wireless people haven't heard about the memo that trees grow. So it's a very short-sighted solution. And it doesn't work very well in rural areas because we just have a lot more trees. So, but we didn't have to deal with that because we got way out ahead of everybody else. We got the Robin money, we got fiber. We are sitting pretty. Okay, next slide. So where we are at right now is we are 99.8% complete with 1,038 fiber miles and 10,840 of the grant eligible addresses are active. We do have, in addition, the 700, and that doesn't include the 700, I just realized, that doesn't include the 700 in Lee Township, because technically, those are not part of the county's public-private partnership. Those 700 are part of the township's public-private partnership. There's just two small areas. The tribe settlement, I think we finally got through all the SHPO for the state, and now, because it's federal land, and now we are in federal bureaucracy. So, and they have to have it done by September. So, not sure. I'll be a lot closer to that problem once I get on the inside. Raise some cane. And then the Allegan Dam Bridge, there are people on the west side of Lake Allegan that are cut off. This is the area, is the area that is the 343 addresses. So this area is 917. And this area is 343. And I wouldn't bet 10 cents it's going to get built by Mercury Wireless, which is now known as Mercury Fiber. The cost to build that is 15 million, they tell me. And it's half of that area is in the Allegan Forest, where the population is infinitesimal. So that is an area that is going to be overlooked, and it breaks my heart, but there's not a whole lot we can do about it. Now, this gray area over here by 131, which is that white line on the right-hand side, that gray area is the area that Midwest Energy and Communications is basically not going to build. Now, the good news is I think there's around 300 addresses there, and 123net is already serving like 250 of them, because all around the outside edge, there were eligible addresses on the other side of the street, and we kept them in our proposal, and they ended up being Robin eligible, even though there were funded addresses on the other side of the street. And that happened because when I called Midwest Energy and asked them if they were going to serve the people on the other side of the street, they said, we can send you a price for that. And I'm like, that was not the question. So just to hedge our bets, we included addresses that were on the other side of the street. And because it's such a small versus those big teal areas over there, such a small area, there are just a few streets that are trapped in the middle that are not getting service. But some of them are Great Lakes Energy customers. So we just have a couple of spots where we fell short. Next slide.
Bill?
Yeah.
Quick question on that. Can you go back to the last slide, please? So looking up where Saugatuck is, which is up in the
Yeah.
left corner up there, there's just one spot there that has eligible addresses, correct? Is
There
that-
are very
is that what
few
this tells us?
eligible addresses. So mainly what's happening in the Saugatuck area and the township is it's the leftovers from Comcast. So Comcast is basically providing service all along the coast, and they gave me shape files that covered everything. And they told me that those were their nodes. That was their node map coverage. And that doesn't mean that they're serving all those people. And Comcast challenge in the southern, like when they built Saugatuck Township, they did it with fiber. But the stuff along the coast is older and it was done with copper. Copper has a distance limitation of around 250 feet. So with these people with the long driveways, it creates a huge problem because it's not about the extra distance to extend the cable. It's that the coax won't work. So now you've got to have a piece of electronics that is costly to then be able to, create that extension using fiber. And so it can cost $12,000 to extend, 500 to 1,000 feet. And they were wanting the residents to pay that. And the residents were like, no, that's not going to happen. So there were a lot of dots that were stranded. A lot of those people are using Starlink or DSL. And so there are eligible addresses in that area, but it's not the township, except for like that area I told you on 63rd Street, and I think most of 63rd Street side streets, like 127th, 126th, I think, those streets were won by Frontier. So Frontier will be, and that's part of the reason why you're seeing Frontier building out from Saugatuck out to 63rd Street and picking up the subdivisions along the way. Yeah.
Building on that, what's your assessment of Saugatuck's broadband saturation now that Frontier has shown up and put a lot of fiber in? Are we in good shape in terms of?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, do we have any gaps as a city?
No, you had pretty much full coverage with Comcast, but it wasn't fiber.
Right.
And so now Frontier's giving people another option. And here's a hypothetical scenario that I'll pass along to y'all that you can share with your friends. So if somebody happens to live in a development where Frontier hasn't brought fiber in and the only option is Comcast and they keep raising the rates, theoretically, one could call Comcast and tell them they're going to switch to Starlink's new $50 a month plan, and Comcast will bend over backwards to give you a really good rate for a long period of time. And then, you'll be considered a win back or a save, and you can get your bill down.
So your assessment is, our city of Saugatuck is in good shape in
Mhm.
terms of broadband coverage now that we've got Frontier bringing in the fiber.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Douglas and Frontier. And I don't know, there could be some gaps for fiber. There are people who are going to fall in the gap. They have high-speed internet. They have Comcast available. They just don't have fiber, and that makes some people unhappy. But then it always kills me. Like the people call me and they say, but I want fiber. And then you get this neighborhood association up in arms because we have Comcast and we don't need this Frontier fiber. And why are they on our property? So you get both
I think
sides.
we had a bit of that here, confusion of what they were doing, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they don't do a good job of communicating. It's true.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so to Councilmember Dean's question, having good broadband coverage is a bit different than from having just one option for people to get broadband.
Oh, yeah.
Because then Frontier controls the market essentially, unless another company comes in and runs their own fiber or
No, I think Comcast and Frontier will keep each other in check.
things.
I don't think you need two fibers. No.
So, I mean, people now have, going to your point now, people have in our three options, if you will. They have Frontier, they have Comcast, and if they're dissatisfied with either or both, they could go the Starlink route.
They can go to Starlink. Verizon also
Verizon
has
now too, okay.
very high speed. They're reporting, now it kind of varies by address because it has to do with the propagation maps from
Sure.
the cell towers.
Yeah.
But Verizon's claiming to provide 300 megabit download speeds on fixed wireless.
Tell you right now, no, they don't.
Well, it depends. You know, you might not be able to get it, but if you live in the right spot close enough to the tower, you will. You will
Don't
get
buy your
300.
TV before you find that out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's not ubiquitous. It is very location specific, and it depends on how much interference there is between you and the tower. So large trees, things like that will diminish your speed. And it drops off very quickly. So it's not like, it doesn't drop off like this, it drops off like this. You know, so the farther you get away, it exponentially gets worse. But yeah, I think the city's in good shape. As far as, and Frontier was the logical one to do it, and I kept hoping they were going to do it and hoping they were going to do it, and finally it was pretty well coordinated with the Verizon, when Verizon bought them is when it.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah, January, Verizon bought Frontier.
Yeah,
Oh, what? Okay.
and it's great because they bundle with Verizon,
Mhm.
their service.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah, and Verizon's making an investment in the network, and that's what they needed because they had an old network with not enough revenue. So revenues were dropping off and the cost to maintain the network was going up, and it was, it was a disaster. It will be interesting to see what they do because Frontier has a big footprint. You know, you're just concerned with your area mostly. Saugatuck Township's reasonably dense, but you get outside of there, I mean, they have Front Allegan and everything in between Saugatuck and Allegan. And they, there's just not enough customers to have two fiber providers splitting the customers to keep both companies, in a stable situation. So I would expect them to petition the FCC to abandon the territory because it doesn't make sense to spend that much money on fiber.
This is really helpful because for years now, telecoms infrastructure has been a big focus of the council. It's been one of our priorities for
Mhm.
years. And is your assessment that based on how the market has responded, that infrastructure issue may have been
Oh, yeah.
addressed?
Yeah, and Comcast, I mean, they can provide faster speeds to businesses, but I still feel like that they didn't really have, it was just a very kind of a limited, kind of almost a Band-Aid approach. And so having the fiber will provide your businesses with the speeds that they need, and it's the future, and then the cell coverage is a whole different problem. So, but from the standpoint of, the residents and the rentals and everything, everybody should be able to have that fixed wireless or fixed internet, high-speed internet in the homes and businesses. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really glad Frontier took it on because it's a challenging area, being it's the mouth of a river that has a lot of historic Bible concerns, to have the person who put the phone lines in initially be the one to replace their infrastructure, a lot easier, not easy, but a lot easier for them than almost anybody else. So I was, impatiently waiting for them to hurry up and commit, and they finally did. All right, we have one other exciting announcement, which is that Westside Park is going to be getting Wi-Fi. It's not signed yet, but we are like this close. I just got the formal proposal this morning, but we already had the preliminary numbers. And between our ARPA and the interest on the ARPA, we will have enough money for 123Net to build internet to, like, it goes, I think, right by Westside Park, but Ely Campground and Silver Creek, but Ely in particular, Ely's in the middle of the Allegan Forest, which, if you remember, doesn't have anything at all. And so 123 is going to extend their backbone out to Ely. And that was probably a couple $100,000 just to do that fiber extension. So some of the parks are easy to serve. Other ones, it requires a major investment of fiber construction. But we are going to be able to get Wi-Fi to the parks. And then we've got pretty good coverage for like the beach at Westside Park. I'll have a tower in the middle of the beach near the edge, near the woods edge of the beach. And at the bathrooms, at both bathrooms, the one that's kind of in the woods and the one that's by the parking lot. And then, Dumont Lake Boat Launch, Little John Park, there's 9 county parks and they're all gonna be able to have Wi-Fi. And then at this point, this project that we're doing, we're gonna do an amendment to the contract with 123net to get the Wi-Fi. They're gonna put in the access points in more public areas that aren't wooded, that are more open. We would like to get the campsites done, but that's a little trickier engineering job because of all the trees. And so if the county is still interested in doing the park campsites, but it'll either be something we bid out for a competitive bid, or the county could even just do them, because the county's going to operate the Wi-Fi. This is a turnkey solution. So 123net will install and maintain the internet service, and if there's a problem with the internet service, they'll fix that. But if there's a problem with an access point, those are going to be turnkey, handed over to the county IT department to manage that Wi-Fi network. And so then that means that the county could easily buy more access points and mount them and install them. So there is still interest in, because especially in Ely, there is no cell service there either, basically. And so it's a safety issue. So it might get looked at, but it will be once, it won't be under my tenure, so. Any other questions?
Great. Well, thanks, Jill. We really appreciate the update.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah,
So
you're welcome.
much. Thank you to Jill really for her advocacy, on behalf of the
huge.
city, even though we weren't necessarily part of the immediate needs for service. Your advocacy and partnership's been huge, so thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, that takes us to public comments. This can be on any agenda item. Does anyone in the room wish to make a public comment on an agenda item? Doesn't look like anyone. Is anyone online wishing to make a comment? All right, closes public comment. Takes us to approval of minute.
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion to approve the regular city council meeting minutes from March 9th, as well as the closed city council meeting minutes from March 9th.
Second. It's a voice or roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to discussion items, amendment to the interurban articles of incorporation, which is on page 7. Ryan, are you teeing that up? Yes.
Yeah, certainly, Mayor, and we have a couple partners here with us from the interurban as well as the city of Fenville as well, in case there's any specific questions for them. But as you know from your updates from Councilmember Muncy, there's been a pilot program running to with 3 dedicated stops out in the Fenville area. There's been a lot of great success with that. And as you also know, the interurban's looking at a potential millage proposal, I believe this August. So as part of evaluating that, they're making, the interurban is making a formal ask to consider adding the city of Fenville as a participating member of the authority. They've passed a resolution amending the articles of incorporation to add the city of Fenville. The city of Fenville met on Monday, is my understanding, and also approved making the request to be a member of the authority. I understand that Douglas on Monday also did the same, and then the township did last week as well. So essentially, each of the current members have to approve adding the city of Fenville by a 2/3 majority vote, is our understanding. So interurban director is, unfortunately unable to be with us today, but there were some initial questions that were asked, and that information is within your packet. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Otherwise, like I said, the interurban representative is here as well as the city of Fenville's.
Thanks for all the information you included. Any questions from folks?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, thank you for joining us today. So I think it's great to extend it to Fenville, especially reading the memo that was prepared. The dentist in Fenville that accepts Medicaid, which I know is an exception in this state. So that's a very important service need for people in this community that rely on that. So, that in and of itself, in my opinion, is a reason to do this. The only other question I have is in regards to being able to offer point-to-point service in Fenville. It's going to be dependent on the millage increase that's going to be requested. Do we know when that's scheduled to go on the ballot? Is that this year?
August.
August?
I believe
Okay.
they're looking at August.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in support of this.
Lauren, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, any other questions? Joe?
I'm just want to make sure first of all, I think it's great that if we are able to expand interurban to Fenville, I think that's really good for all communities involved. The only question I have is just kind of the what if, and I think it was touched on in here, but I wasn't sure I fully followed it. If the millage doesn't pass, what happens? Do they still constitute board membership at that point?
They've had some, discussions about that, so.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Sam. I'm the acting city administrator of the city of Fenville.
Hi.
While
Hi, Sam.
Katie is out. Nice to meet you all. So our understanding is that if the millage has to pass district wide because it's an authority. So according to state law, that if the entire district of the interurban authority, which would, with the passing of your resolution on Monday, if you do that, would then include the city of Fenville. If the entire district in its total passes it, it passes. It doesn't go by each municipality. It's the total district that would vote. So if it passes by 51%, it passes. Now, if it doesn't pass in the entire district, we'd still technically, as per the Articles of Incorporation, we would still be in it. But my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it would be a matter of how the funds get, dispersed back to the authority, because obviously the authority is funded by its millage. But I do know this, that if the millage does pass, the cost of operating in Fenville is covered by the Fenville millage. That the Fenville is part of the millage, right? So, but also, obviously, all of the authorities, not all the authorities, all the municipalities pay into it at their own millage for that 1 mil, whatever it ends up being. But it's based off your tax value. So, yeah. Does
So-
that make sense?
Yeah, so the risk would be is that the point-to-point service would be likely not happening if it didn't pass.
Possibly. My understanding would that be that, right?
We are having great success with just the 3 stops that we've implemented in Fenville as well.
Almost 400 riders.
Continue that, but ideally we just continue to broaden that service for all of our community members. Because it truly is putting a gap or bridging the gap, that we're seeing right now, but numbers speak for it right now that.
Come up to the,
Yeah,
please, we're recording it, so.
Even a little bit that we have been doing the 3 stops in Fenville, just this past month alone, we had close to almost 500 rides. Just to and from Fenville into Douglas, Saugatuck, Laketown. So I mean, riders love it. We're getting positive feedback from community members, but with it comes growing pains as well too. But we're adding more buses to the fleet here and getting more buy-in from all the communities as well. So we would love to incorporate and keep growing.
I think along those lines, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It seemed like, I think maybe part of what I've heard from, question wise, maybe to tag on to Councilmember Clark's comment is like, all right, Fenville's, assuming all of this passes on Monday is a member essentially. There's not a decision to increase the millage amount. Say there's a decision on that amongst the district as a whole. And then I think the question is, okay, well then, yeah, what does that service look like? What, if we're going to continue to offer the stops, what does that cost look like? How is that going to be paid for right now? My understanding is Fenville's been, paying a portion of that costs and, so is it going to be potentially just a decision on general fund dollars? I think there's also a greater question. It's maybe a legal question of, even if the millage increase doesn't pass, there's still a millage that they're looking to, continue. And obviously that I think continuing still needs a vote, which would require probably district-wide and still involve some millage for Fenville. So I guess it's probably just maybe the difference between a half a mil and a mil, right? Is that kind of what you're?
That's exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
Because you don't assume the half mil that's current in place unless it gets voted in by your municipality, correct?
the way the millage, my understanding of the millage is gonna work, it's and I'm speaking on behalf of us and the interurban at this point, is a renewal and it is. But City of Fenville's millage, because there's not currently a mill being brought out by the interurban, is worded a little bit differently, but it's still technically the same millage because it's asking for, it's just not asking for a renewal because it doesn't exist. It's just saying, hey, this is what it's gonna be. So it still fall into the same whole district-wide thing that I just talked about. So it like, if it doesn't pass in Fenville, like by a vote, but it passes in the whole district, it's the total number of voters of the whole district. Not the total number of voters just Fenville. Does that make?
So a minority of Fenville voters could vote for it, but if the majority of voters in the other communities vote for it, Fenville still gets it. Fenville's.
Wouldn't be, in your example, yes.
Okay.
But if in the vice versa, it's true.
Right.
Chris, so this is probably a more simplistic way for me to understand it. So when you say that there's 400 riders and everybody's happy, and there isn't a specific millage for the interurban, how are those rides being funded?
Through a trial, so last year before I started, actually, today is a year, I started my job.
Congratulations.
Years.
Yeah.
But right before I started, our city administrator and the interurban, they came together and said, we want to start the idea of bringing the interurban to Fenville. So we're going to do a trial where we, as the city, will pay the portion for the 3 stops. And obviously the interurban's costs of maintaining their own stuff is partially paid by their ridership, right? But the added cost of going the extra mile to go to Fenville, literally the extra mile, was paid for those 3 stops by the city directly out of their, I believe it's general fund. I'd have to exactly look at the ledger to see where it comes out of, but
That
yeah.
answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great, anything else?
No, thank you.
Great, appreciate all the information and you coming to the meeting.
Thanks, if there's any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you for being here.
Happy
Appreciate
work
it.
anniversary. Okay, that takes us to the Oval Beach concession proposals, page 38. Hi, Scott.
Hello.
Hi, Scott.
Hi.
Thank you.
It's kind of a unique one, something we don't see all that often, in our projects. Oop.
She okay?
She's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Russ still needs his boot.
Yeah,
Still
still need my boat. Yeah.
Get that darn elevator fixed, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as you all are aware, we had pushed out a public RFP last, what would that be, the early over the winter time back in November. RFPs were issued just to have somebody operate the concession stand for us. This is, given the seasonality of it, it's been a challenge for the Department of Public Works, certainly. And we've leased out or licensed out that space in the past, and it seemed to work well at that time. And so we wanted to revisit that. So pushed out the RFP. The proposals were due in mid-February, of which we had received 2. One was from Midtown Tavern, Inc., and the second was from Grow Estate LLC, DBA Saugatuck. So staff reviewed both proposals. One of them, Midtown lacked some detail, and so we were more intrigued with, although a good proposal, we were more intrigued from the staff level with the one that was submitted from Grow Estate LLC. So to kind of go over what the proposal is, Alec and Lindsay are here to speak for themselves and kind of go over the basics of what they're proposing for the Oval concession. So hopefully this is just a discussion point. You guys are welcome to come on up and go over the proposal, but ultimately we want to at least conceptually get a general idea of what's being proposed here before and get some council feedback before ultimately proceeding with some legal review of a license agreement for the space.
Great. Thanks, Alex and Lindsay.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Comfortable. Madam Mayor, council members, thank you for having us and thank you for the opportunity to present this for you and we'll see where we land. My name's Alec Payleitner.
Lindsay Leitner.
We're owners of Grove State LLC, currently doing business as Saga Taco. The concession stand proposal, it's elaborate here. I won't get too much into it, but kind of the basic summary of it is we would take over the concession stand, and there's two main parts to this. The first part is what people can get when they come to the stand, pick it up. And the second is the kind of outside of the box thinking arrangement. So the first would be people can come with their money in hand and say, what can I get? We are proposing that it remain a ready to eat packaged goods, candy bars, granola bars, chips, things like that. Confectionery, so frozen treats, ice creams, things of that nature. Drinks, obviously, whatever, soda pop, cold brew, things like that. And the reason for that is myriad, but it is prevents any sort of health department interference at all, just completely eliminates that whatsoever. Protects the quality of things and people know what they're getting, easy to recognize. It's a fun way to curate. I think there are opportunities there. It might sound simple, like I can just get like a Snickers bar, a can of Coke, and a bag of Lay's. Sure, but there are lots of producers in Michigan where we can have fun with it and it can be a good time. Second is the second half of this is, like I said, kind of that outside the box thinking. We live in a DoorDash world, so we're like, let's lean into that a little bit. And we can use our facility at Saga Taco as the kitchen to prepare food. People can order it on site with a member of our staff that knows the menu, and they can look at the screen, order it just as if you were ordering at the counter at Saga Taco, but then are getting beachside delivery for whatever the time frame looks like, whether it be 30 minutes, 45 minutes. These are all operational details that we will work out. But they would be provided with some sort of marker, flag per se, to get literally beachside delivery. And to have a good time with that. So they get hot food delivered to them from a local establishment, us. But we're in control of how that gets prepared. It's under our tutelage. When we're at when restaurants open, we're there. And that was part of my hesitation. Our hesitation with this is how do we bring that same care to something like the concession stand? There were a couple options. We could eliminate our brand from it entirely and just kind of operate as a hot dog pretzel stand or something along those lines. But that didn't seem exciting enough. That didn't seem like what Oval Beach deserves. But then we said, okay, maybe we can prepare some of our food on site there. Well, problems there as well, right? How do we oversee that? How do we make sure that the quality is there? How do we make sure that the guest experience that we are all shooting for, it's one of our wonderful assets of this community. How do we keep that brand intact with the food experience they're having as well? And so this is when we kind of had that aha moment. Let's just do this beachside delivery. Let's, like I said, we live in a DoorDash world. Let's lean into it. So those are kind of the 2 points here. The way we've structured the payment is to give a generous percentage of the packaged goods, 20%, and then 5% on the delivery side. And that kind of comes in, depends on, I have no idea. This is year one, we're starting this. I have no idea what percentage of things are going to sell. I have no idea if this is going to go, really just heavy on the packaged goods, limited delivery, or vice versa. We'll find out. But it's all set up for success on both our end. So we're super happy and excited and want it to be as busy as can be, and super excited for the city, wants it to be as busy as can be. The way we design this is that everyone wants it to be busy, because the last thing we want is to engage in something like this and then go, man, I hope it's slow at the beach today so that we don't get screwed. Like, that is not what I want. I wanted to set this up properly so that we could be excited about people being excited about eating at the beach. Do you have anything to add? Perfect. That's kind of my run through. Happy to answer any questions, concerns, all that kind of stuff.
Lauren, could I start?
Absolutely.
Thanks. First of all, this was a really detailed plan, and I just appreciate all the work you guys put into this plan. Couple of questions. I noticed, first of all, that it was a Tuesday through Sunday. What are your thoughts on that Monday and not having any kind of service at the beach on that Monday?
One thing we did think of in our mind is in those super peak days of Memorial Day,
Right.
Labor Day, and whatever Monday falls within 4th of July, that we would most likely be open at Saga Taco and the beach as well. But outside of that, when we were looking at what was required,
no, we were not thinking of being open on Mondays.
So I was just wondering if there was a way that you could just do the ready to eat things at the beach on that day with one of your staff members, just selling the ready to eat things and not the Saga Taco things, and maybe still have, so somebody can get a drink on a Monday, or like, you know, at least have one staff member there that could potentially sell those things on that day.
Yes, that is certainly a possibility. When we were, going through the RFP, there were certain expectations laid out in that. I'd have to go back and look what it is, but I think it's be open on the big days and then plus 3 days a week or something along those lines, like weekends plus 2 other days. There were some very specific stipulations to what their expectations are. So I would encourage council to, put those, tell me what you want, like, give me the stipulations, you know what I mean? Like, anything's possible, but I have to work within whatever box I have. And
Right.
so, does that make sense?
It does.
Um,
It does.
But yes, and I also think there's going to be times when that delivery service won't be available, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
where-
Right.
Like, we were talking about, like, the logistics of how do we get a car down there,
Mhm.
right? Well, we're also talking about like electric bike service, that's one thing, but what if that person calls in sick?
Right.
You know what I mean? Do I need to have 2 people on standby that are doing it? I don't know. So I think I
Yeah.
have to be open to the possibility that sometimes that delivery service isn't available. I'm not shooting for that. That's not my goal. I don't
Right.
want that to be a thing, but I think that kind of speaks to the same point of like, when can we be open, when not, what are the expectations? And I definitely want to come in crystal clear, eyes wide open, what you expect.
Okay, so that's the only thing I wanted to clarify, because, the beach is only open so many, days out of the year, and we just want to make sure that people are, getting what they need, all the time. As far as the special service that you guys provide, I know you guys will try to work out the logistics of that, but
Yeah, I can offer a little bit of insights on the question. Obviously, we
Yeah.
want to be able to provide, a basic service as much as possible in the summer, but, even, if we're capturing that Memorial Day weekend and the Labor Day weekend on Monday, I think the essence of it is still gonna kind of replicate what's been done historically, because, the first part of the summer, especially when the water's cold.
Yeah.
Mostly all of June, kids are still in school, our staffing levels are low. It's not uncommon for that concession to be closed.
Okay.
Especially on a Monday,
Okay.
where it's extra slow out there. So that's at least from a staff perspective, going off of what we've seen out there, our current operation, that's not super uncommon. But yeah, maybe, as the water gets warmer, July, August, we're definitely gonna we've always tried to capture as many of those days as possible. But, and then again, the opposite happens in the fall, come, for at first week or 2 of August, when people are starting to go back to school or they're going to sporting camps or whatnot, we still deal with those staff shortages. So usually the Mondays, non-holiday Mondays are the first day we have a little bit of wiggle room historically.
Okay.
Thanks, Mayor. Do we have adequate connectivity at the concession building to get the orders transmitted across to the kitchen? Do we have that capability?
I think with the Wi-Fi service that's available out there,
Do you think the Starlink will be enough?
I do,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Well, let me add to that, Scott and I have discussed my expectation as well, now that we have fiber being run out to the beach from Frontiers, that we also evaluate whether or not there's a need for, that service out there as well. So we do have some pricing on that and are at least going to be evaluating that, because I want to, make sure that, obviously their POS system is going to be critical to, this process as well, and keeping good records. And so that's a critical piece.
I would support moving fiber out to the concession building, and because that also gives us the optionality of public Wi-Fi, which is, in addition to the Starlink, would give us another level of safety for people to get in touch with emergency services. What else? You touched on kind of where I'm mostly interested, and I think it sounds like you're already mulling this over, is the logistics of delivering to the beach when it's busy. We all know how it gets with traffic backed up. But having said that, I was this past weekend, I was in New York visiting family, and it is, as you said, the wave of the future. I couldn't believe on a Sunday, a good portion of the people that were coming into the bagel shop were delivery scooter riders. They were coming in to get like one bagel,
Right.
and then getting on an e-bike and taking the single bagel to somebody in an apartment somewhere in Brooklyn. You know, I mean, so it's definitely the wave of the future. I suppose you're completely mindful that, you know, if it does, if your competitors see people really going for it, you may have others that, you know, we may start seeing Grubhubs or Deliveroos or whatever in Saugatuck. So I mean, but I suppose that's competition. But so you are thinking of a way, and I guess I'm wondering, does the council need to do anything to enable this, you know, because I'm assuming if it's, you know, some people riding, say, electric bikes or scooters, that when the traffic is backed up on the beach road, they're just gonna split the lane, like, just like the Deliveroo guys do in New
Yeah.
York. And they're gonna blaze through, they're gonna wave at the beach guards and like, look at
Yeah.
that flag, which I'm totally fine with, but I just don't know I don't know if we
You
need to
nailed
do.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to do anything though in terms of traffic, communication with the
Jake
sheriff's
is trying to
department.
smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we need to be thoughtful about, you know, we will basically have, you know, unless you're gonna use drones, which I don't think we wanna do, you know, we're gonna have to make sure that the sheriff's cool with it, beach staff understand, and, you know, everybody understands that, you know, that's gonna be, you know, you might have a guy, and, you know, once again, this is just based on what I saw this past weekend, you know, those guys, you know, they're on the clock to, you know, get as many deliveries done as possible, so, you know, they go fast and they split lanes and, you know, they're just on a mission, you know, so I just don't know what other due diligence we might have to do to make sure that we're enabling this to be successful.
I mean, I would ask, yeah, what do we need to do? What, you know,
Yeah.
Scott need to do? Is the sheriff, I think, is a reasonable, at least phone call to make and see what they think.
Are you planning on using the chain ferry to go across on the e-bike possibly, instead of going all the way around?
I mean, that's
That's what I would do.
Officials,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that thought. Yeah, there is a, you know, I love the idea. I think it's great, but there is absolutely we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there is that notion of it, but we certainly are rule followers. Any of you that know us know that that's how we roll. So I want to check my boxes there. So thank you, Councilmember Dean, for that.
And I'm 100%, I'm thrilled that we have a local company, a business that we respect and that we all are big fans of, that made this effort to put this RFP together. So very grateful, and I'm 100% supportive. I think we can work the details out. So, yeah.
Other questions, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, kind of following the similar thread here, it's a world-class beach, and I think most, if not all, the council want to see the experience raised, you know, in terms of concessions and taking it upscale, and who better than to do that than, you know, the founders of a couple of great restaurants, including Saugatuck. So I think it's wonderful. But I do share kind of a similar concern around logistically how, on one hand, you either manage expectations with the customers who, when they go up there, they want their food, right? That knowing that potentially you have traffic, you've got all sorts of issues, right, in getting it there. Have you looked at all about potentially staging popular items on site? I mean, I don't know the health codes and whether or not you can
You'd have to keep it.
stage things in a hot box and not prepare it, and whether that exempts you from having that. But, you know, I would encourage you to kind of look at, and maybe over time you learn the habits, right? And when the peak orders start coming in, you can start looking at it that way. But, you know, from my perspective, you know, you're doing everything right to raise the bar in terms of what we're providing to the people that, you know, the patrons of our beach. You know, let's just make sure that, you know, when they want their food, we get it to them in a reasonable time so that they're not dissatisfied, and that would be my only thing. You know?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And
Especially with your name on it, right? You want to make sure too,
yeah,
right?
you got it. Nailed it. Couple thoughts on that is from like a timing perspective, and we're nimble, right? Like we're nimble operators. We're gonna be a part of this every day. So we will see what works, what doesn't work. Like from like a timing perspective, that one of my like passions is the wrong word, but to give people an accurate estimation as to how long something is going to take is incredibly important to me. So to figure that out is a wonderful challenge. And you know, how many times you order something, it's not accurate, like whatever, like I will do everything I can be. So I appreciate that challenge. I also wanted to talk to, we included it in here, is kind of maybe buried in the text of this, was the idea of having a web presence that would be updated indicating the availability of our services. So whatever, I don't know what that looks like in coordinating with the city. We could handle that on our end, like our website, we would have a sagataco.com/beach or whatever we wanted to, call it. And it would be updated each day of whether or not it's available, if there are issues. It's a rain out today, so when people came to look and they're like, oh, we're going to plan to eat at the beach. Great, click. They have an update. Yes, we're open today from this time to this time. That would be something that we would update daily in the morning as issues come.
I do think it is kind of important just doing some like market research, looking at, say, like I looked at Traverse City concession stands and it was like almost impossible to find out. They had Facebook, but then it wasn't accurate, but then it wasn't sure if they were closed or not, So we would want to really be a very transparent presence, are you open? Are you not? What's going on? And I think that actually does create a lot of value, even if you are not open, just for people to see, oh, I need to get something before I go to the beach.
Yeah, there's no reason we can't have on there lists of the curated products we have and things like that to make people excited for. We handle all our web presence in-house, so we're happy to extend that to this project as well. That would be right in line with what our proposal would be. Did I answer your questions, Councilmember Card? Sort of, in kind of roundabout way.
It's a learning experience.
I appreciate it. Thank you for.
Chris? I was just so happy to see this, to see your names there. And to see you sitting here, I thought, is this about that other thing? But no, it's not. It was a nice surprise. And I'm definitely with Councilmember Stanton. I think if it's possible at all in July to always have Monday open, maybe no other month, but at least in July, the hot time. And then the phone access, Starlink, that's good. Crane Orchard has a wonderful website, when to pick, what to pick. You check it daily. And so you know before you go. And then the last thing, should we be providing a generator? I mean, we certainly have a lot of, as we all knew last week, a lot of times the power goes out. Would that be something that we as the landowner should provide?
We do that regardless, yes.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you. Okay. Russ?
Yeah, thank you. Alec and Lindsay, I'm very happy that you've entered into business with the city. Presumably, we passed this on Monday. My position is that the city has to be with you at the hip, and that includes the manager leading the way with you as a contractor with the city and getting everything that you need to make yourself successful. Based on your experience in this community, I'm convinced, and knowing you, I'm convinced that you're going to figure this out, right? You're nimble. You're going to learn. Your customers are going to tell you what they want out there, right? And I know you listen to your customers. So I think that's just going to be something from me personally. I rely on your experience and the city's support to make it happen. Things are going to look a lot different than I think we anticipate just based on the experience, but I'm just happy it's you and not someone that we don't know, because then it's just a different relationship. And I do share the concerns about the Mondays. I think that's a great idea. Consider drones. I mean, drones wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be super cool?
Oh,
I mean, honestly.
Actually, you and I think, agree. I mean, obviously it could be disruptive for people to see drones on the beach, but imagine launching a drone with tacos from Sagataco. Just hop over the dune and go into the back parking lot.
One path.
Yeah.
Where you've got a person that's, the final leg of the delivery,
Right.
just gets the tacos off the drone in the back parking lot and then
Right.
boom.
Yeah, maybe that's year two.
Well, I'm saying,
Here too.
in all seriousness, does anyone have a drone guy that I could just have a conversation with? Because this is outside of anything I've created, but
The guy that did the deer.
Fire department.
Yeah.
there you go, cool.
At least
Yeah.
they're trained and you could hire
That-
them.
that-
I would love to think about it for a couple hours and
Yeah.
just see them.
No, the graph shop fire guy could probably at least tell you what he knows, but this would be probably a fairly sizable drone, but I mean.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. I mean, how cool would that be? We'd be in the news. You'd be in the news immediately. Absolutely. And, the reason why I think that's maybe something to think about is because there's going to be times where you will not want to be delivering to the beach because it would be literally impossible to get someone out there on an e-bike that's not going against traffic, that's not going to maybe cause a potential issue. And nothing to do with you, but just the way that business works. And, Scott's very familiar with it, having been out there a number of years. It can get quite congested right quickly. And especially if someone's got a 4-year-old who's waiting for their tacos and it's 15 minutes later than they anticipated, that can go south pretty quick. So just something to think about. And again, at the end of the year, it'd be great to have you come back and say, hey, council, here's how things went. Here's what we did, right, here's what we did differently. And
Just say one more thing before I have to go. Is there any thought on taking pans of your chicken and your beef or whatever and taking it out to the concession stand and making, like, just putting tacos together for something quick?
Sure, yes, we went through that. We went down like, a micro menu kind of situation.
Yeah.
The joy of our proposal is that we eliminate all of the health department issues whatsoever. We eliminate operational expertise
Yep.
in the concession stand.
Right.
Really then we're looking for a little bit of competence and a lot of kindness. And that's what I can hire for as opposed to like a kitchen expertise, if that makes
I
sense.
get that.
So-
I get that. Yep.
good. Last thing on the delivery. I don't think we really have much, I mean, DoorDash is in the community, but do we have to think about maybe restricting access to the beach at certain times? Because if we've got an arrangement with you and your delivery service, all of a sudden other companies may say, hey, wait a minute, why am I not delivering food out there? The Root Beer Barrel in Douglas, hey, why am I not picking up on this business? I don't know that will happen, but I think as a concession, we need to be consider the fact that we don't want to overload the beach with more delivery drivers, and maybe it's already occurring, we just don't know it. I honestly don't know,
Well,
but
if you
just,
suddenly have 15 orders and one driver, I mean, we really don't have any idea of how much, how much,
My thought on that is, we used to just add water. They used to bring paddle boards out to the beach all the time and other beach items, chairs and whatnot, inflatables. And they just had some dedicated drop off locations, the yellow hacked out parking areas on the north side of the beach, south side of the beach. So when it's truly that congested, that's something that, again, we can kind of talk through on the fly, I guess, but if there's that level of congestion out there, it may be that there's some drop off sites that are dedicated for that type of service.
we have some smart people on this. I'm convinced you guys will figure it out.
How long does it take to drive if you're driving back from the beach? What's the drive time if there's not congestion? This is maybe a really bad idea, but maybe once an hour, we could close traffic coming down like they do for construction all the time and let a run go up. If it would only take a minute, we could do some cute signs or whatever for folks. They wouldn't have to wait long.
I adore this idea. That's a way bigger ask than I would ever have asked for. But the way, so operationally, because I've thought about designing this too, is what if you get someone that orders and you get someone that orders every 10 minutes? Like, that's a giant hassle, right? Like, how are you gonna deal with that?
Right.
So what you would do is you'd have delivery times on the hour so that if they ordered 11 minutes before the delivery time, they get their food in 11 minutes. But if they ordered 59 minutes before the delivery time, they get their food in 59, but that would be crystal clear.
Right.
So there would be deliveries on the hour. I mean, like I said, that's an amazingly large ask that.
Yeah, I
that
don't,
won't be
Madam
Mayor
everybody
Kay
might be
for me.
saying, I
But,
can't believe she just asked, but it's a thought. I mean,
love it.
because it wouldn't take long. And I don't know, something to think about.
Yeah, let's plan best we can and then evaluate after the season and see how it works.
The media PR guy in me just says that every TV station from Chicago to Detroit would cover getting your taco delivered by drone at.
Oh, my God.
Oh, amen.
I mean, it would probably double our business for people I want to go to Old Beach, so I get a taco delivered to me by a drone.
and then let's throw in redoing Park Street at the same time.
There you go. Any other questions? I echo what everyone else said and love your creativity in this
Thank
and
you.
everything else
Thank
you've
you.
done and do.
Thanks, thank you.
That's, there are a few things that we talked about, just details that'll come back before you and kind of work that out with legal, like the utility coverage. How we did it in the past is we basically just took kind of a lump sum and had the licensee pay us a lump sum for utility coverage and just try to make it as seamless as possible. So we'll work on that and then bring something a little more polished back to you for consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, well, and now we get to something a little less fun, the selection of an auction firm for surplus equipment, though, I might want to bid on something. So Michelle?
So I reached out to 4 different auction companies to get some information from them to auction off 6 items that we have at the DPW. Those items are a 99 loader, a 2009 dump truck, a Boss V-Blade snowplow, a 2008 landscape trailer, a Boss tailgate salt spreader, and a Salt Dog in the bed salt spreader. Of the 4 companies I reached out to, 2 of them provided proposals. Merit Auction provided one with 3 different options. The first option was an on-site live auction where they would come there and bring people to the DPW garage to auction the items off. They had 2, you could either choose a 10% buyer's premium or a 10% commission paid by the city, with the city would have a minimum of $1,000 fee for that. We would pay their advertising costs, and we would provide all information to them, including photos. Option 2 was an online auction with the items remaining at DPW, but then we would have the 10% buyer's premium, but we would also have a 10% fee, and then advertising costs as well. And then the third option was the online auction, but we would have to bring all items to their location in Granville. And then it would be a 10% buyer's premium, 10% commission paid by the city, and advertising fees on top of it. Ranger Bid came back with a 0% commission rate. So with municipalities, we don't pay any fees with them. The buyer would pay a 10% fee. We would get whatever the item auctioned off for. And Ranger Bid specializes in municipalities. They've done a lot with Allegan County Road Commission, Douglas DPW.
Great. Questions, Chris?
I do. Did you by any chance check with RepoCast or Medema?
RepoCast is part of Medema, which Ranger Bid is as well.
Okay.
So they referred us to the Ranger Bid side because of their specialty.
I would just definitely consider online auction. I think trying to get people to an auction this day and age, they don't want to do it. They just want to do it online.
Yeah.
As far as the commission, it's a tough one.
Russ, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Russ.
You sure? Thanks. Great work, Michelle, by the way. I appreciate all the research on this. Question to the manager. Is this really something that we even really need to see? I mean, I have implicit trust in Michelle and Scott and the city manager to say this is our recommendation and you approve it. It seems to me that's something that the city staff should just be able to do. I mean, this is a reasonable thing and more administrative in my opinion. So just more of a question, because I support Ranger Bid. I did a little bit of research. I'm curious about this, and they seem to be one of the top companies out there. Medema is a well-known auctioneer, and the online, as Councilmember Peterson said, I think makes total sense. Easily managed for the city. So, but just more a question. It seems to me an administrative approval is all that would be needed.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that and the trust, and you're right, Michelle's done, and Scott have done a lot of great research on this. Because there's kind of contractual language that we're entering into here. I don't have the ability to just go and sign a contract unless it's something that we're purchasing that's, $1 to $20,000 or actually right under $20,000. So, because there's no monetary amount that we're actually paying as part of this, and it's a agreement we're entering into, it's something that you needed to sign off on and agree to. And obviously through your purchasing ordinance, you did update it to make it clear that we could use this auction method. So I think the intent is, and maybe we can modify this language a little bit in the sample motion to make it clear that we're just kind of in a blanket way authorized to use Medema for auction of surplus equipment, and for the city manager to sign over title, and that you're comfortable with that and make that even clearer, and we should be good to go.
I would be, just to move this product faster, because it said in the memo, the longer it sits on our lot, depreciates more quickly, it's going to lose value. So I would just encourage the city to use whatever methods possible to move it quickly. So I would support that.
Sure.
Joe?
I mean, great work. I certainly don't want to slow things down. I think you guys should go as fast as you can. The only question I had, or maybe even suggestion, was maybe talk to either Douglas or Cal Lake. I know Cal Lake had some equipment that they were looking to auction off, and I don't know if it would make sense to split the fees or whatever, if there are any upfront fees, but just something to keep in the back of your mind and maybe reach out. Again, I don't want to slow things down and make it more complicated, but it's not a lot of equipment. But
Yeah,
just to jump in really quickly on the issue of how much of this can be handled administratively. The purchasing ordinance portion of the city code does require the council to approve either by motion or resolution any sales of items that exceed $2,500. So it just has to be a motion, but right now the way the city code is set up is that there is going to need to be some individualized approval of the items that are being sold before they go to auction.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. So I would, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would ask Jake, does that mean though that, right, would the council be prohibited from via motion, making it clear that this method with this firm, if it's a product that's, we have surplus equipment on and staff determines that it's surplus, could be simply auctioned off? Can we make it more of a blanket of approval?
To give you
I
permission to
think
go.
we could, yeah, either by motion or you and I could build up a
Right.
resolution that has a little more detail than that and spells it out more clearly.
So one last question, if there's no commission, how does Medema get paid?
The buyer pays a 12%.
A 12% pre, okay, because I didn't see that. Okay, so it's a 12% on top of the bid amount.
Correct.
Okay.
So like sold the loader for 20,000. If the highest bidder was 20,000, that would all come to us. The buyer would then pay the 12% fee on
Okay.
top of the purchase price.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you so much. Great job, Michelle. That takes us to page 95, the updated capital improvement plan. Thanks, Scott.
Hello again. Yeah, so we had a pretty lengthy, great discussion back on February, what was it, 18th? So a month ago today, just going over some of the capital improvement details and updates. This is just more of a formality step, just to basically have council adopt the changes that we made to that document. So I'm happy to go through some of those revisions if you would like me to. They are listed in the memo, but if you have any questions, I can certainly answer them or give you more detail if you would like. Councilmember Gardner, I think at the discussion, you'd kind of asked what are some of the inputs generated to guide some of our decision-making processes. So, that kind of have a little piece there that highlights some of the logic behind those changes. So your PASER rating, utility needs, traffic volume, traffic type, non-motorized needs or improvements are part of it. The drainage needs, maintenance costs, outside funding opportunities, residential council, staff, community feedback, and inputs, and then F&V recommendations too. So all those pieces kind of steer the ship on where we go with these improvement needs over time. So also John Moxie is here too, if there's any questions for him as well.
Question, Charles?
Yeah, just one question. Thanks again, Scott, for the work here, and thanks, John, as well. So the PACER study, if I recall from my question that when we first saw this, is that's due for update, right?
That's right. I think John it said at the meeting, it's about a 3 to 5 year
Yeah.
study that we do. And so we're due.
Okay, so will that be done shortly? Is that on the plan, John?
Yeah, if you look at the second line of the actual study itself, that's our PASER ratings. We plugged them in there at a 4-year cadence. Certainly can be done more frequently than that.
Got it. Yeah,
That's shown in your 26, 27 fiscal years. So the idea would be to probably do it this summer or fall.
Okay. All right.
It's all those tiny numbers that are really big, right? Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah, just to know, I think Councilmember Gardner made a good point about Park Street last time, and John took another look at that. I think we have kind of an updated number there that reflects like more, unfortunately, but yeah. So, but the other piece of it that John kind of noted to me, it was just that a piece of it was also missing. So from Perryman to Mount Bald Head was not necessarily fully reflected. So that's where a good chunk of it came out too. So.
Great. Doesn't look like there are any more questions. Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.
And John.
Appreciate it.
Okay, now we are at resolution for the adopting the early voting site and the municipal agreement for election services. Jamie?
Yes, so our 9-day of early voting agreement is up with the township. We went into that with a short time period. And so we are proposing a tri-community 9-day early voting agreement. The resolution in your packet is to approve me executing the agreement attached. That has gone through our legal is very similar to the past agreement where it was just township and us, but we have added Douglas. So that brings it down to, instead of running 4 days of early voting, Saugatuck City will be responsible for 3 days. We will all split it. With the city, village of Douglas being the last part, since they will have to close early voting. But very similar to the one, except for we're adding in Douglas and moving the location from the township to Douglas. Facility is very large and can accommodate that. So looking for any questions you may have about the agreement that I can answer for you. That'll be in their new building, yeah. Mhm.
So that'll be the entire early voting will be at the new village.
Yes, for the tri-community, for all of Douglas and all of Saugatuck.
Okay.
So I will have the expense of noticing, since changing the polling place from township, I'll just notice all the voters prior to that early voting will be happening. I purposely separated that from what I currently just sent out for the polling place change for the regular elections. I will be doing this close to when early voting starts, not to confuse the voter too much, but yeah. So do you have any other questions?
Just, and assuming all three clerks will work together to make sure that this is widely like noticed and promoted.
Yes.
Doing Facebook email blast.
We are.
All the stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be the same message from everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Great, thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
And then we are to page 111, the extension of the township cemetery agreement.
Yeah, so our kind of longtime agreement with the township to cover or share in some of the mowing costs at the cemetery in exchange for our city residents to receive the in-district rates is up for an extension. So the township has kind of provided what that cost would be for the next 2 years. It's pretty much kind of stayed in line with what it's been for the last several years. The cost of the burial plots and cremation have gone up slightly, it looks like, from the last, couple of years ago. But nonetheless, still a pretty substantial savings with the in-district rate versus the out-of-district rate. The township manager also provided kind of some detail on how many actual, city resident purchases they've seen and what that savings looks like to the city. So happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, teeing it up for Monday.
Yeah, just a quick question. In terms of the payment of our portion of this for the lawn care, it shows that oh gosh, let me find this page again. We're paying about 6 months behind the actual time frame, so it's from July 1st through June 30th, but we're actually paying it for the 6,000 in the following, like 6 months later. Is there a reason why it's not aligned with the actual contract? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
I'm not sure we completely follow, but
Yeah.
I know most of our payments every year have been around in the spring, but yeah, I see what you're saying, that the March payment, and in this case, the agreement from before expired, and so they're just kind of making it clear
Yeah,
that 6,000 was covering,
Yeah.
the second half of last year into the first half of this year, and then
Yeah, because it almost makes us look like we're in arrears when we're really not contractually. So it's on page 113. So that's just more of a general question. I mean, if everybody's okay with it, I'm fine with it too. It just kind of caught my attention. Two is that there was, I'm glad that we're on top of this because there was a period of time where this agreement didn't get updated and we were running without an agreement for several years, and maybe a couple council members here might realize a little contentious. So I'm glad we're on top of this. So thank you.
Sure.
Great, anything else? All right, that takes us to budget amendments. Nikki, thanks for joining us. Page 119.
Right. So. Wow.
just made that, okay, great. So anyway, the budget amendments actually come in like three major types. The first is the CIP timing differences. And one of the reports that I submitted actually gives you the reasoning behind what we did. And you'll see CIP running all through that list. So those are easy to see. The big ones, Blue Star Trail is again moving to next year. And the Maple Street DPW lot and the Village Square sewer and water, we're shifting some of that forward. And while Maple Street has some increased expense, mostly this is just expected expenses falling into the next budget year. I mean, the rest of it, not the Maple Street's gonna have a little bit more than we had anticipated because we did the bid, which you guys approved several weeks ago. But the rest of it is more just shifting time periods. The second kind is adjustments to accommodate actual activity. Like we're here and we obviously need to do something with this. The big ones are interest, the insurance hits July and not again. So those are, and they hit various funds. So again, you'll see those in there. And the third kind is adjustments just because we think something is going to happen before the end of the year that will tip us over. So, for instance, FOIAs, we might get some more FOIAs that we need to pay up for. That's an example. The special notes, there's a new department for elections. If you were to look at the clerk's part, you'll see that elections is being reduced to 0, but it's because we're actually moving it to its own department. Yeah, you can keep going into the blue and white one. It might be easier to see them in there. There's the new election. We also increased it quite a bit because we have a May election that we weren't originally anticipating. We also did the elevator repair, the holiday lighting. We anticipated potentially putting them in, but then we had to cover the cost for putting lights in, not just making it possible, but the next step. Mary Street was added, Elizabeth Street sewer improvements were added, the Chain Ferry engineering was removed, so that affected in the other way. The Maple Street grant we received completely when we were only expecting to receive it, half of it. And well, the Maple Street CIP changes didn't affect just the funds, but in the expenditures, but how much we were anticipating receiving from the township and the fund balance transfers. That all got figured in. It's that part is quite complex. We had an additional CDL training and of course the Warnock drain assessments. I'm not covering it all because you guys don't want that kind of detail. And if you do, you got it in front of you. So that's it. That's what I got.
Questions?
One question. Thank you. Hi, Nikki. FOIA activity and the adjustments for anticipated activity. How much money are we actually spending on FOIA activity? I'm just curious.
You?
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look
Okay.
at the drill down to that kind of level.
Yeah, nothing urgent, just more, that caught my eye, so.
Yeah. It comes in, it's not anything that you can necessarily guess.
Depends on the FOIA and, you know, the complexity of it and if I need assistance from legal, so. I anticipate more coming in, but you can never anticipate if I'm gonna need the assistance.
Sure.
And drafting in questions I may have about the complexity of all of them. So,
Right, yeah.
Hopefully.
Fair
no
enough.
more, But.
Fair enough, thank you.
Joe?
Probably too much detail, but so if I'm understanding correctly, there's basically recalendarization of expenses, right, which push things in and out of our fiscal year. And then there's variances, right, which mean things are either costing more or less, right, in different categories. So if you factored, I don't know if you know the answers, but if we factored out the recalendarization of our expenses, what's the gross change in the fiscal year budget from an expenditure point of view?
Yeah, versus looking at, yeah, what our net result was with increased revenues and
Right.
other costs going down. I mean, yeah,
Just curious, I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Cause I mean, obviously the evaluation is, well, some of our costs are still they're not totally gone. They're gonna be there somewhere. It's just gonna be next fiscal year, right? And Maple Street's a perfect example of that, budgeted for about 60% of the cost to hit this fiscal year. We've shifted some of those percentages to based on what portions of the project are gonna be done. Frankly, you're gonna see a lot more shift even before the end of the year as we get into construction season, see what actually gets done. So your final budget adjustments are gonna be even,
bigger swings.
and then as we do our budget for next year, we're gonna also have to keep that in mind as well. So I don't have that exact answer for you. I can tell you the net result of all the changes that we're making here resulted in just your general fund, us using about $424,000 less of it. Again, not all of that is totally savings, because like I said, we're gonna have some of those dollars coming back next year, but we're also being still cautious with our projections and anticipate we'll still have some savings, and hopefully we'll be using less fund balance than we anticipated, but that's still a big chunk, right? That's not gonna hit this year. I think the only one that went up a little bit and using a little bit of fund balance was water, just because of that Water Street gate valve ended up coming in more than we anticipated, much more than we anticipated, and so that's still hitting this fiscal year. So.
Jamie?
I have an answer for you for my FOIA right now. I'm at $6,900 and budget is $7,500 for.
Okay.
That was into February.
Okay, thank you, Jamie.
That's just the legal fees. Obviously, she's got her time and other
Right,
expenses too,
I
yeah.
assume that was just okay.
Yeah, we had one in particular that was very voluminous and had a lot of time, that also had a lot of correspondence that had to be evaluated for any privilege, and so, yeah.
Where I think one PDF was like 600 documents long, took me like 5 hours. There's another one that was quite hefty too. So some larger scale ones that I need assistance with, like the redacting and the overview, that I'm not missing anything.
So that assistance comes from,
I do legal.
okay. Is that something that municipalities can outsource? I mean, it seems to be it can be a significant amount of time and effort. Is that something that, and I'm just asking generally, if that's something that we can say we contract for someone to actually fulfill those FOIA requests on our behalf?
So from my perspective, there's probably parts of it that can be outsourced, and there's parts of it that probably shouldn't be. One of the things that our office is going to do when assisting with a FOIA request is like filtering through privileged material, and either redacting in whole, or in some cases redacting in part, because sometimes there are things from our office where not everything is necessarily privileged, but some of it is.
Thank you, Jake.
So yeah, determining whether something is responsive or not responsive probably can be outsourced. Filtering for attorney-client privilege, maybe not. And then also there's a litany of exemptions under FOIA, where it's like whether or not something should be produced, and some of that is kind of squishy. So again, just filtering for what should be withheld of what is responsive is, for some of these requests, is good to involve the attorney.
Thank you, Jake.
Great. Anything else for Nikki? Thanks, Nikki. Okay, that wraps up the discussion items, takes us to public comments. This can be about anything at all. Do you wish to make a public comment? Nope. Anyone on Zoom wish to make a public comment? All right, that takes us to council comments. Chris, you want to start?
I'm going to miss you all, but I'll be going to Florida.
Safe travels.
Enjoy. Very good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Field trip.
Yeah, field trip.
Russ?
No comments today. Thank you.
No?
No comments, unless you wish to take me with to Florida.
Scott?
We can talk
They
business.
did Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone.
Gary? I have a quick comment is to thank Chris and Joe and Gregory, who will be meeting with the Allegan Cares or Community.
Allegan Community
Oh,
Or Community
Action.
Yeah, Community Action of Allegan, thank you, we can do it. Tomorrow afternoon, to learn more about the switch in providers for senior meals. I noted, that the township is meeting on Friday to pass a resolution asking the, county to change its mind. So just FYI, and then the administrator from Allegan County has offered to meet with us as well. So appreciate you learning more about that. Look forward to hearing what you learn.
We'd be able to do a Zoom with him for me if I want to get on that.
Absolutely, yep. I'd say, speaking, yeah, I mean, or we could do, I could set up a Google Meets.
Well, certainly, yeah, I mean, obviously, we couldn't have more than the three.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, if, once I hear his availability, I'll let him know that one, we would have to have remote and I'm sure we can arrange for that, yeah.
Oh, with that, how about a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Meeting adjourned.